Okay, Gooch, hop in. Come on. Let's go. My name is Steve Pasteiner, and I've been a car nut all of my life, and it's been quite a long life up to this point. Behind us here is it's basically was the idea of a gentleman named John Thomas, who was the sales executive vice president at Magna. And Magna is a huge supplier to the industry. So we did a lot of work for Magna, and at one point he came to us with some drawings of what their idea was of what it could be to kind of integrate the original design of the 1953 Corvette with the modern Corvette. Well, we ended up doing quite a bit of work on that drawing, but essentially it was their idea, and we executed a model of it. It was a very nice 1/3 scale model, and then when GM decided that they didn't have the time, they had other cars to do, didn't have the manpower, then they pulled out of the job or out of the proposal, and then we kind of asked if we could go ahead and pursue it, and they agreed to do that. So the car basically is a C5 Corvette that has some of the body panels removed. It has a new front clip on it, new headlights, new bumpers, but underneath it all, it's all the same Corvette. It has the same performance, and we retained the safety items on it. So basically it was very well received, and we didn't publicize it enough, but in spite of all of that, magazines tended to write on it, and we built 200 of these vehicles, actually 200 of the convertibles, and 14 of the Nomad Roadster or Nomad wagons. And the Nomad was actually built originally as a Corvette concept station wagon in 1954, and then out of that came the 55, 6, and 7 Chevy Nomads, but the original was indeed a Corvette concept car. I was born in Budapest, Hungary originally, and my first word was big car, and my mother never forgave me for it. She expected me to say at least mama or something, but it's been cars ever since, and I loved drawing cars. I loved all kinds of cars, mostly the sportier types, but just basically the architecture and the graphics and the identity of cars was always a fascinating thing. And at one point, I never could understand how people could live without knowing what kind of car is driving past them. Well, Budapest is well known for now what you see in some of the ads with the Danube cruises, and it's quite a scenic city. But at the time I lived there, this was in the 50s, and there was a revolt in Hungary that was quite a bloody revolt, and I ended up getting into some trouble with the Russians at the time, and I had to leave the country. And actually I left Hungary alone at the age of 14 into Austria, and then from there I had relatives in Cincinnati. He was a professor at the University of Cincinnati, and she did medical research. So, they took care of me, and it was my second set of parents, actually. After graduating from high school, I joined the Army, U.S. Army. I was in the 101st Airborne. I was a badass paratrooper at the time. And then afterwards, after getting out of the Army, I went to Art Center College in California. And it's really not that well known of a school, but basically probably about half the designers in the industry come from Art Center. And it is a very good, very strict school. And out of Art Center, I was hired by Chuck Jordan and came to work at General Motors. I loved the place. I couldn't believe that, all I had to do is draw cars and make things beautiful, and they'd actually pay me for it. I would have done it for free after all. I had to pay tuition to do the same thing. Um, I I loved GM. I loved working there. It was really an exciting time. It was in the 60s, and things like the Riviera, Tornado, Eldorado, split window Corvette, or the C2 Corvettes, C3 Corvettes, Corvair, Chevelle. I mean, all the cool cars. It was just, I was in heaven. Um, I got also an assignment. I was asked, and at that time, safety was not exactly the favored word because of Ralph Nader and the Corvair and so on. But I was asked if I want to work on the GM safety car, and it was an inspiration because what was so neat about it is that I had my drawings on the drawing board, but at the same time they were building the car as I was making the changes to the drawing, and on one occasion actually the weld splatter caught my drawings on fire. So that was kind of an inspiration that, geez, I'd really like to be doing that, where you can design and build the same thing at the same time. So I became assistant chief designer ultimately at Buick and later at Chevy, but still I had this dream of being able to design a car and just build it. So it was a difficult decision to, once you're with GM, you're always a GM person. So I ended up leaving GM and started a business where we could just design cars and build them to your liking, or to at least to the customer's liking. My wife, who was very understanding, she deserves a lot of credit for that, and so I have to give her credit for that. So in the late 80s, specifically 89, we opened this place, and the dream started, and I got to design and build cars, and through the years, it's not an easy goal because it's a lot of work, and often people don't understand how much work it is and how much money it takes to get these things done. But so far, it has been a wonderful run, and I guess I'm living the dream. Well, while at GM, I also got to work obviously in a lot of different cars, and given that I was in Buick Studio, which was kind of a bread and butter studio for General Motors, it's not as glamorous as a Corvette studio, but even there, I loved working on the Buick Grand National, and before that it was the Buick GS and GSX with the cool paint jobs, and worked on the Riviera. So at least the cars I've worked on made a lot of money for General Motors. And then in the early 80s, Buicks were very, very popular in NASCAR. And in that process, given that I was so interested in speed in general, I would spend a lot of time in the wind tunnel with the individual teams, the various NASCAR teams, just developing the cars and setting up ride heights and various configurations for air dam spoilers and setting things like that, developing surface. And it was a very, very exciting stay, and got to meet a lot of the drivers, the team members, the crew chiefs, and so that was a wonderful side dessert, so to speak, to your day-to-day work at GM. Well, so one of the things, I guess, if you're a designer, to be able to design a car that you just like, and you did the design work, you did the build, and obviously I've had help with some very talented people who work here, but it was an opportunity. There was one time when I got a letter from Cadillac, and they were moving from from their headquarters down in Detroit, and they had a number of Northstar engines that they didn't quite know what to do with. So I got this letter saying that if you're going to do something cool with it, you can have an engine. Well, I wrote back a letter. I said, yes, I have a couple of ideas. I'd love to try it. And so the manifestation of that is this little car, and we call it the Heldorado because it has an Eldorado engine in it, but it's about the size of a Fiero. It has a Corvette C4 suspension front, and it has the independent suspension in the rear, obviously, with a Cadillac Northstar in the back, and it is quite fast, you know, and we just kind of built it because I love to build something that I like, and you know, so that's basically it. Has a mild steel space frame, and then we've used many of the components. This is carbon fiber because we needed to have it light. The front panels, rear panels are carbon, but this was built quite a few years ago, and it still starts right up, and it's kind of fun to drive, and it does get a lot of attention, you know. So that's basically, I suppose, to live the dream and to have a car like this is just something. It's a dream coming true. So after having left GM, like I said, we remained the best of friends, or most positive relationship, and we got work from GM often enough, so there are absolutely no hard feelings, you know, and we remained friends. But around 2000, or end of 1990s, I was connected by Buick, and we were asked to do a proposal for a car that would represent Buick's 100th anniversary, and what the design would be. How would you represent it with a design that would kind of cover all of Buick's features, or most of Buick's features. So I did 4 different proposals representing the 50s, the 60s, the 40s, and the 30s. And they kind of picked the one that ended up being the Buick Blackhawk. And the Blackhawk has Corvette suspension front and rear, but we developed the chassis for it, and then the body and the retractable convertible top, carbon fiber top. And it was quite a success. It was on the cover of Auto Week and the cover of many magazines, and it was a very, very popular car. So that's our involvement with the Buick. And as a kid who used to draw Buicks on the sidewalk, you know, so that you could get a ride in one, you know, and actually what these guys, the chauffeurs would say, well, I can take you, but I can't bring you back. That used to be there if they had to pick up some bigwig from the train station or airport, then, you know, I'd end up walking down. Actually, I feel very lucky to be able to do this, and currently we're still doing work on various projects. We just finished actually doing an electric truck design, and we're, you know, available for doing other kind of projects. So if you have a dream, or if you have some kind of an idea that you'd like to have realized, we can certainly help you put it into 3-dimension, and you'll be surprised just how reasonable it is, actually. So instead of a website, I can give you a phone number. It's 248-892-3843, and that's my cell, so you can get a hold of me if you have an idea.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to Automotive Affairs and click the notification bell.